I feel like what I'm about to say is going to pretty much make you enter into the twilight zone because here we are 3 weeks into the NFL season, and the Indianapolis Colts with Daniel Jones are undefeated. The Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs are both at 1-2. I don't know about you guys, but to me, I feel like I have entered into the twilight zone, and I want out of it. I don't know. It feels weird, but we're going to talk about more of that as well as the games happening this week. And of course, we have to talk about our idiot of the week. So stay tuned because you're listening to the Snap Count Show. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Snap Count Show, where I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and with me today is none other than David Street,
Hey guys.
Ed Smith,
Go Pack Go.
and Thaddeus Lloyd.
Yo.
Fellas, this last week, it might have showed us a lot, maybe with how the NFL is heading direction-wise. There were a lot of storylines at play this last week, and I just mentioned a few in the intro. The Indianapolis Colts are now undefeated at 3-0, and the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs are at 1-2. So this is very shocking, very weird to see. Yes, I know we're only 3 weeks in, but usually you don't see this happen. And when it comes to playoffs, odds aren't in a lot of their favors. But if I were to express just with maybe one word of how this last week played, I would almost say roller coaster. The reason why I say that is because there were several games that were within reach of a victory or a defeat, and the complete opposite happened. Example: the Rams probably thought they were a field goal away of winning that game, and what happened? Well, if we all saw a blocked field goal for a touchdown, the Eagles win the game. Okay, or David's Tampa Bay Bucks. Chase McLaughlin, hitting a game winner right after it seemed uncertain after the Jets scored a touchdown. So to me, I would say roller coaster due to the emotions of the games because we are all diehard fans. So when it comes to a last minute field goal for the win or for a loss, you go through a lot of emotions like a roller coaster. Ed, if you were to express in one word, how would you feel last week happened?
Uh, Paranoia, because there is no chance that any team could feel like they were comfortably ahead, except maybe Chicago against the Cowboys, but we'll talk about that later. Uh, uh, because you turn around and say, like, the Packers had the Browns shut out for 3.5 quarters and then wind up losing that game. You had just all these flip flops in the fourth quarter, all these lead changes that keep happening. The paranoia is real between all the teams, trying to get through the games that they're ahead and trying to keep the leads that they've accumulated.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see being paranoid as a fan because there wasn't a whole lot of certainty in a lot of these games, just like you alluded to, Ed. So I agree with that. David, what about you?
Roller coaster, especially especially from my perspective as a Bucks fan, that we are 3-0, but the things that my team is doing to me and all the other Bucks fans, it's not necessary, right? I mean, you don't have to wait until the last minute to win the game, but hey, 3-0 is 3-0, and I'm not complaining, and I have more to say about our last minute wins later on, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, David, I think great minds think alike. So I can see why you went with that. Thaddeus.
Yeah, it was just really fun to watch. Like, it was just fantastic. I mean, we don't with now. I don't think the new kickoff rules have to do with all the blocks and stuff, but we might be seeing either the greatest flourishing of special teams plays we've seen or the worst plays of special teams we've ever seen. It depends on how you look at it. So it was really fun to watch. Like, yeah, no lead felt safe, and I mean, I couldn't believe it was like, the Bucks were on top of the Jets 23-6. I'm like, oh, Bucks are going to blow them out by like 20 points, and then they come back and they block it and return it for a touchdown. But I'm like, no, Baker's going to lead him, drive him down the field. It'll be fine. That's what happened. So that was really funny. And then I was watching the 49ers Cardinals game, and I was like, oh boy, here we go again. Because the 49ers have had the worst ranked special teams last year, and I think at the beginning of this year. But we signed the new kicker, and we win the game with him on his leg. So I feel a lot happier about it. Now we're only the fourth or fifth worst special teams now, so I feel really good about it. But it was just really fun to see all these plays because it's never happened before, at least in the last 20 years, I believe, with all these special teams plays.
Yeah, I mean, and the Niners weren't the only team with a new kicker this week. Atlanta wished they probably kept their old kicker after this last week. But if anyone out there that's watching our show happens to be friends with RFK, let him know that we know the leading cause in blood pressure spike is because being a football fan. Because it seems like on a weekly basis, my blood pressure, like a roller coaster, just watching my Steelers play, and it's like. Well, Ed, I guess that's what makes us diehard fans. There is a reason that is a term, so I would have to go with that. But yeah, I'd say those are all pretty good synopsis of what happened last week, all within one word and a few sentences. But let's jump over to our idiot of the week. We contemplated on maybe who we were going to talk about here because there were options out there. I mean, we saw Marvin Harrison wide open drop, and here we are in the NFL where plays like that shouldn't be happening. But I started thinking a little bit more, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be a player, it doesn't have to be a person. Why can't it just be a franchise? And what franchise am I talking about? Well, none other than the New York Giants, who play in New Jersey. Don't get me started on that. They are not New York, but that's a different tangent for a different day. But the New York Giants, this off season and now going into this season, it has been such a train wreck. I don't know. Maybe it's because they share the stadium with the Jets, and we know Woody Johnson isn't known for being a great keeper of the franchise. But New York Giants have signed almost every has-been quarterback this offseason, unless you're the Cleveland Browns. You're battling for that trophy. And they go ahead and start Russell Wilson for 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, sorry. And now he's benched, and their starting quarterback's going to be rookie Jackson Dart. And meanwhile, their old quarterback is none other than Daniel Jones, who is thriving in Indy with an undefeated record. And this just screams like a typical Giants almost off-season going into the season now. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, as I've said for many years now, success starts with the top in the organization and how it funnels down to the team on the field. And there just doesn't seem to be any consistency and continuity and just a message that feels like it's from on high that gets down to the field, and it has led to poor decision making in the front office, poor decision making in player personnel, and poor decision making on the field. And nothing is happening to help any of it. Now, they're hoping with this change of Jackson Dart taking over that he can become this face of a franchise, but we're talking about a an area of the country in which if you breathe the wrong way, you will have reporters down your throat. And we're talking about a kid that came out of Mississippi. So it's going to be difficult for him to kind of take all that in while still leading this team.
Yeah, and David, on the other hand, I mean, how bad do you feel for Malik Neighbors? Malik Neighbors is an insane NFL talent, and he's going on, multiple quarterbacks. I mean, what does that do to you?
Yeah, how many quarterbacks is it now? 5, 6, 7
7. I mean, it just keeps going up.
in just 2 years? Yeah, that's like, I mean, you certainly have to feel bad for someone like that, especially because, wide receiver, unlike most other offensive positions, is highly dependent on who your quarterback is, right? I mean, you could be the most talented receiver in the world, but if your quarterback is, I don't know, Jameis Winston from his last year with us when he threw 30 interceptions, well, then it's like, what are you doing here? And certainly, dealing with a carousel like that has to be it has to be incredibly frustrating. And you also have to wonder if after his rookie contract is up, if he's going to ask for a trade. Because look at the way that Daniel Jones, I mean, you said it yourself, Matthew, look at the way that Daniel Jones, of all people, is thriving right now in Indianapolis, right? It's like, you look at someone like that and you look at success, and it is early, but you look at the early success that he's having, and you have to think to yourself, well, why would I want to be here? Because clearly this franchise is a career killer.
Yeah, it's not a good look at all. And being in New York, like Ed was also talking about, this is a big market, so it is very fragile there. And to have a change like this is only going into the 4th week of the season is crazy. But Thaddeus, is there possible potential that we could, eat crow for this because Jackson Dart could come in and potentially, take the reins and do amazing? What are your thoughts on that?
It's possible. I'm gonna give it that. It's definitely possible. The whole reason Brian Daboll was hired as the Giants head coach in the first place was because he was basically the one who took Josh Allen out of that, the beginning or that testing stage of his career and turned him into a real NFL quarterback who's now a top 3 quarterback. And that was the hope that the front office had for Dable that he would do to Daniel Jones. That happened maybe for half of a year back in 2022. And now looking back on it 3 years later, yeah, that was mostly Saquon Barkley just being an insane running back and carrying a franchise for one season. So it's definitely possible. He had that connection with Josh Allen, maybe. Now, Josh Allen could have matured on himself. It could have been other people, but Daboll's the one people point to, the reason why Josh Allen is the way he is today. So it could be said the same that he could try to do the same for Jackson Dart. However, I'm very skeptical of it because like the reason we've said the Giants are the idiot of the week is because this whole organization is a joke. They've not drafted very well, and the ones they have drafted, the defensive line, this defensive line was supposed to be top 3. The I forgot who the coordinator is right now. He's not doing a good job or the players just haven't lived up to their potential. I mean, a line with Abdul Carter, Lawrence on there, I believe.
Brian Burns. I
Brian
mean,
Burns,
yeah,
Kayvon Thibodeau. Those are all borderline number 2, number 1 edge rushers on most teams. And you have 4 of them on the same line. And a lot of people, including myself, had a lot of expectations for that line. Now, I did say the Giants were going to go 1-16. But still, I had a lot more expectations for this defensive line, and they just have not lived up to it. So it really looks like, as far as organization goes, ever since Eli Manning left, this organization has just not drafted well, and they just haven't had a good organization. Also, probably they were cursed by Odell Beckham being on that yacht as well. So you still have to live with that.
the infamous yacht picture will live forever. But as far as the defense goes, I mean, I think a lot of us has. I mean, this has been an anomaly because I talked about the Baltimore Ravens. I was really convinced that they'd be top defense this year, and they're near the bottom right now. So it's been definitely an off year on some of these defenses, but I don't want that to be an excuse. The Giants just right now are atrocious. So
And then also, you know, when you look at the owner of the Giants, John Mara got off to an excellent start because he took over as the owner in 2005, I believe. 2 years later, the Giants won the Giants won the Super Bowl against the Patriots, arguably the best team we've ever seen. 4 years later, the Giants won the Super Bowl again against the Patriots, just like before. So his ownership got off to a great start, but then after 2011, the Giants have only had I think maybe just a couple of good seasons, and really maybe only just like one good season because as Thad pointed out, that one season he was talking about that was just Barkley putting on a show carrying that team. So as far as like teamwork goes, you could argue that the last like really great season they had was I think 2016. If that's the year if that is the year that I remember, even back then the offense was horrible, but the defense was elite. So
yeah, so Giants, they are our idiot of the week, and they could potentially be our idiot of the year, early candidate, depending on how the rest of the year goes. But let's go ahead and start talking about this upcoming week because uh, we do have several slated games that are good and some that aren't. I mean, if you've looked at the Monday Night Football doubleheader this week, I, w- I wouldn't look again. So, but um, it, although the week starts on Thursday Night Football, we're going to go ahead and fast forward here to Sunday. And Thaddeus is going to start us off here on a game over in Dublin, Ireland, and that is the Minnesota Vikings and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thaddeus, how are you seeing this game? And with it being an away game, technically for both teams, who has the edge?
Sorry, Matthew, but I got to steal your thunder here. You see, we got to take the Vikings and the Steelers, and we got to play them in Dublin for the first time. It's going to be a very tough game, very very tough. Even worse than some rugby matches we got over there. So. It's going to be a hard one, but I really do think the Vikings would have got a big edge in this one. The Vikings are 3-0 in international games, while the Steelers are 0-1. You really honestly should have done this game, Matthew, but I have to destroy your team here. Now I got to stop with that. But in any other case, so I'm not. This is not going to be a favorable matchup for the Steelers. The Steelers, the defense was good against the Patriots. Now it's the Patriots. They forced 5 turnovers, and you're like, okay, great. The problem is they only won by 7 points still. So this Steelers team is unbelievably lucky. As a lot of Steelers fans like to say, there's devil's magic going around on that team. Tomlin just somehow gets his team to 9, 10 wins every year, despite them, having an average roster or whatever. And I'm going to repeat it again. This is the league's most expensive defense, and they've not really showed it a lot so far. So I'm very worried about it. As far as the Steelers' offense, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been doing all right. He's good in the red zone. The Steelers have been a really good red zone team, but the problem has been getting there. They have the second worst rushing attack in the league right now, and Aaron Rodgers is throwing it less than 6 yards per pass, I believe. So they're really short gains, which does not match well against this excellent Vikings defense. Now, the only reason the Vikings have one loss this season is because that offense could not do crap against the Falcons because JJ McCarthy looked terrible. JJ McCarthy has looked absolutely terrible through 7 of the 8 quarters he's played in the NFL. And then conveniently, he was injured. Carson Wentz comes in, and now the defense absolutely they scored 2, I think maybe 3 touchdowns versus the Bengals. But Carson Wentz looked a lot better than McCarthy did, especially as a seasoned veteran that Wentz is. So there's going to be a conversation to be had. If the Vikings win all their games while McCarthy is out, do the Vikings make another mistake again because they let Sam Darnold go? I would have kept Sam Darnold. You still won 14 games with him last year. Now he kind of faltered on at the end of it, but he's still looking good in Seattle right now. Currently, they're up on the Cardinals, so I'm I'm bullish on him right now. But this Vikings offense paired with this excellent Vikings defense, which has held opponents to, I believe, under 160 yards passing per game, it's just not a great matchup against the Steelers. Now, the Steelers could try to pull something out of their hat, but I really don't think this is going to be a close game. I'm going to give me, let's see. Yeah, give me the Vikings in this one, 24-10. I just don't see how the Steelers offense can operate against this Brian Flores led blitz heavy defense, which excels against teams who throw it short.
Yeah, you want to look at tale of two teams. It's these two teams last week where both of these defenses forced about the same amount of turnovers, around 5 apiece, but Minnesota ended up scoring off those turnovers and winning by a substantial amount against the Bengals. The Steelers, on the other hand, barely scraped out a victory. And, me being our resident Steelers fan here, I don't see much hope in this team. Yes, we're 2-1, okay? And I will always be the last one to tell you a win is a win, okay? But I am finding very little hope in this team, both offensively and defensively. The only hope I've seen so far is special teams, even though our biggest blunder of the year was on special teams and cost us a game against Seattle. But it's also won us a game against the Jets, and Boswell seems to be pretty automatic. But Aaron Rodgers, and I can't even put a whole lot on him, too. This offensive line isn't protecting him, and there's no rush offense. Our running backs aren't doing anything, and there's no balance to it. So, and the last time we went over and actually played the Vikings in Europe, we played them in London. I remember this game like it was yesterday, and the Steelers had the killer bees. We had an amazing team, and we got embarrassed by the Minnesota Vikings. Jared Allen killed Big Ben that entire game, and I honestly feel like it's going to be the same thing this game. But I think it's going to be very low scoring. I'm going to have to go with the Vikings in this game, 17-14. But I don't think that score is going to really indicate the dominance that I think Minnesota will have on us. So 17-14 Minnesota. David?
Well, before I get into my analysis, I have to ask, how in the world is this game not being played in any of the Nordic countries?
Yeah,
Because
I know. Yeah.
right? Yeah. But listen, Thad made a point about how the Vikings have been allowing 160 passing yards a game, and that is certainly impressive. But also, who have the Vikings played? Uh, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Jake Browning. Yeah, sorry, I'm not impressed by that list of quarterbacks whatsoever. Like, they're finally going to be playing a real quarterback for the first time this season. Listen, say whatever you want about Aaron Rodgers. Certainly, he's well past his prime. He is not. He will never be the same quarterback as he was before. Okay, but I will still take a 45-year-old Aaron Rodgers over second string Jake Browning. So I think you guys have an idea of where I'm going with this. I'm going to take the Steelers over the Vikings, and I'm going to take the Steelers 24-14.
Yeah, I mean, and Ed knows. Ed's a Green Bay Packers fan, so he's seen Aaron Rodgers through the thick and thin. But I don't know if you guys saw the video last week against the Patriots where Rodgers went on a rollout and essentially flicked the ball 40 yards. I mean, it was a beautiful throw, and ultimately our tight end dropped it. But Rodgers could still do it. He's always shown that he's got the arm on him, and not like Ben towards the end of his career where he couldn't throw it past 20 yards. Rodgers could spring load that ball pretty far. But Ed, how do you see this game playing out?
Well, to being the Green Bay Packers fan that I am, of course, I'm going to lean heavily on what I know of Aaron Rodgers. And what I know of Aaron Rodgers is he can read a defense before that defense does their post snap movements and changing what the picture is. He can do that. He has done that for 20 years in this league, and I don't see him not being able to do it all of a sudden. So he's going to be able to take those take that blitz happy defense and just pick it apart. And that's what I expect of him. The caveat to that is Aaron Rodgers is no longer invincible as a quarterback. He has thrown interceptions. He has thrown bad passes. He doesn't have the years of experience of bringing wide receivers along like he used to when he was in Green Bay. So even though he's got some chemistry with the wide receiver room, I don't think he's got enough chemistry there to be able to lean on them to see the picture the same way that he does. So I will expect the Vikings to be able to intercept at least one. Whether they take it back or not, I don't know. But it is going to be a lot closer than what I think Thaddeus is showing here. So I'm going to put this at 23-21 as a final score in favor of the Vikings.
Yeah, and being a Steelers fan, I could be our harshest critic, which right now I'm going to when I use this reference. But it's like right now, it's like picture your neighbor brings you over a trash bag, opens it up, and tells you to use what you can to make dinner out of this. Okay, well that's kind of what Aaron Rodgers is working with. Is he the perfect quarterback that or like how he used to be? No. But I don't think a lot of this is on his fault. I mean, you look at DK Metcalf; he's averaged 2 drops a game so far this year. And the offensive line has been absolutely garbage for him too. So he's trying to work with what he got, but he doesn't have a whole lot to work with, and that's the sad part. So, and we're seeing it on the field. But we are a lucky 2-1, and like I said, I'll take the wins, but I just don't see us coming out of Dublin with the victory. On to our second game here, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is going to be a good game. I know that David's going to talk about it with the close games that the Buccaneers have had this year, but this is a great game. And David, I'm going to let you take the floor here and preview this, especially talking about your Tampa Bay Bucks.
Well, when you look at both the Bucks and the Eagles this season, on the surface, like the very, very surface, the surface of all surfaces, both these teams are similar purely in the sense that all of the games have been won by single digits. Now, the difference is that if you look at the Eagles, in 2 of those 3 games, they've been in control for most of it. In their first 2 games, they were up going into the fourth quarter. Their opponents scored, a last-minute touchdowns, but the Eagles were still in control. There was never really any doubt. Whereas in their last game against the Rams, they had to fight tooth and nail to overcome a big deficit and win that game. Now, go over to the Bucs side, and the Bucs have been down in every single game, the last minute in regulation of every single game, and yet we are 3-0. And listen, I think it was either last week or the week before that. I think I made one quick comment about how I thought Josh Allen was the early MVP at this point. Well, that was before Baker Mayfield led a third straight last-minute comeback. And by the way, fun fact, he is the first quarterback in NFL history to have 3 straight last-minute game-winning drives. First to ever do that. And yes, but I have to ask, at this point, how in the world is Baker Mayfield not the MVP favorite? And yeah, I know it's early, and I keep saying that it is early because I want to try to pump the brakes a little bit, but just for the sake of debate, for the sake of conversation, you have to ask yourself, how is Baker Mayfield like not the MVP at this point? I mean, 3 straight game-winning drives. It literally does not get any more MVP than that. And as fans, well, not just fans, but the media as well, we've been programmed to believe that MVP is just simply the quarterback who has the best numbers. Now, I think last year that pattern kind of broke when Josh Allen won the MVP. I think we can all agree here that Josh Allen did not have the best numbers at all, not even close. That was clearly Lamar Jackson. However, Josh Allen also had a worse team around him than Lamar Jackson did, and everybody thought that the Bills were going to take a step back, but but they didn't, right? But here we are, fast forward a year later, like I said, and we have Baker Mayfield, who, if Baker Mayfield wasn't the quarterback, the Bucs would be 0-3 right now. Like, there's just no question about that. But I digress. Going back to the game, if you look at the history between the two teams, the Bucs have owned the Eagles in 4 of the last 5 matchups, right? Like, there's just something about the Bucs that the Eagles can't solve. I like to talk about how for certain teams, there's teams that they just can't solve. It's like they have some sort of mental block against them, and that seems to be the case here for the Bucs against the Eagles. And I'm going to expect that to continue. And I think it's going to be another close game for both teams because, as I said before, both teams have been in single-digit games. There has not been a double-digit game, and I expect that to continue. And I'm going to take the Bucs over the Eagles, 28-23.
David, I know that for the most part this year, Emeka Ibuka has been, the guy for you guys. And I know Mike Evans will always be a number one, but going into this week, you guys are going to be without Mike Evans. Am I correct?
Yes,
And
yes, we are.
you still feel that things are going to still look good. Ibuka is going to continue to be able to put up those numbers, or do you think that he is going to take a decrease in action because Mike Evans isn't playing?
I can certainly see why you ask that because the expectation is that without Mike Evans, well, now Ibuka, even as a rookie, is probably going to get double teamed now. But even so, Ibuka has been such a pleasant surprise. Even as a first round pick, I don't think any Bucs fan expected this kind of production from him. And, you know, I wish I could add more thoughtful analysis to that. But to answer your question, it might be a little more difficult, but I think Ibuka is still going to ball out.
Yeah, and I want to say I agree with you with having 3, games in a row comeback victories for Baker Mayfield in the Tampa Bay Bucks. He should be talked about a lot in that category. I know it's early, but I will say this: if he beats the defending Super Bowl champs and without Mike Evans, the media will surely be talking about it. So,
The last point I want to add, and then we can go over to either Ed or Thaddeus.
yeah,
But the last point I want to add is keep in mind that Baker Mayfield also doesn't have any turnovers so far.
that
And
is amazing.
that was something he was known for last year. He had a lot of turnovers, but so far he's been doing a pretty good job of taking care of the ball this year.
Yeah, controlling the turnover battle is what's going to win you games, and it's what's going to take you far. So, good for Baker Mayfield. Ed, how are you seeing this game play out?
Well, I'm seeing it play out for the Bucks. Not in as cool uniforms as they wore last week because those creamsicles with the all white, those were spectacular. So I really appreciated seeing those come back at least once instead of just the orange crush tops on them. But that is last week. Coming up this week, I see this game. It should be fairly even except for the fact that Mike Evans is not going to be there. So you are going to have a Philadelphia defense which gave up some yardage, gave up some plays to Puka Nacua and uh, Devontae Adams last week. They can condense their coverage to one side or the other, and it's going to make it that much more difficult. The Eagles were able to get to Stafford, I think, 4 times last week, and I just see that continuing to be the case, getting to Baker Mayfield. Yes, Mayfield is more mobile than what Matthew Stafford is, but I don't think he's going to be able to get away from the Philadelphia front seven uh, that many times. He may be running for his life a little bit, but that's what makes Baker such a good quarterback is he can run for his life, but he can also maintain running the offense. The Bucks do have a shot in this game. Uh, they did very well uh, last week as well on defense, but can they buck up against the one play that everybody knows is coming from Philadelphia, but then be able to drop back in coverage against uh, Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, who really showed out last week? Uh, and not to mention, you have to deal with Saquon. So there's just so many different avenues that the Bucks defense have to cover. I don't know if they've got enough to cover all the way. It is going to be an entertaining game. This is probably the biggest game of the weekend, and I don't necessarily see how without Mike Evans that the Bucks pull this off. It is going to be fairly tight in my opinion. Uh, we're talking like 24-20 Eagles.
Yeah. These two teams have shown that their games have been close all year, that I don't expect anything different. I expect it to be a close game. And oddly enough, I have it the very exact same score as Ed. I have it 24-21 Eagles. Because of the same X factor. I would like to see Baker Mayfield have a great game, partially because he is my fantasy quarterback. But I mean, I have to be biased in some ways. But I feel like Philly is going to be able to get things together. They've been each week trying to more and more, but like I said, I just think without Mike Evans, it does make things a little tough for that Tampa Bay offense, and the Eagles defense will be very threatening. So give me the Eagles 24-21. Thaddeus.
Yeah, this looks to be a really great game. I like a lot of my picks, a lot of what I do, especially in preseason, is I go off of history. I'm very recency and also long term biased as far as history goes. So I'm gonna take the Buccaneers in this one. They won against the Eagles 2 years ago in the playoff game. They won against the Eagles in kind of dominating fashion, honestly. Last year, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, but one of their losses was to the Buccaneers. They lost 33-15, I believe, last year, and it was about the same time as well last year. So, I mean, maybe the Eagles can, actually care about this game and want to get revenge for it. But history has shown that Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers have just been able to beat the Eagles the past couple of years, and Jalen Hurts has just struggled, particularly against the Bucks. So maybe Todd Bowles has something over Hurts, but give me the Buccaneers in this one. I know they're missing Mike Evans, but that gives a stepping stone opportunity for someone else who's been kind of quiet this year, and that's been their tight end, Otten. He has not caught a lot of passes. He's caught 3 passes in 3 games, been non-existent. I think it might be his time to step up because he was actually really good for the Buccaneers last year. So I believe he can step up with obviously with Ibuka, and Sterling Shepard's also a really good option. I think they can keep up with the Eagles. And ultimately, I really think Baker Mayfield might drive them down again for a fourth, game-winning drive because he's just done that. And the Eagles, for some reason, they've just lost a step from last year. And like through 2.5 games, that offense was just, I wouldn't say struggling, but they were just kind of lolling their way down the field most games, barely doing it. And it wasn't until they were down by double digits that they really put on a show. Maybe they, that lit a spark for them going through this season, but I don't know how that's going to happen again. So give me the Buccaneers in this one, 23-20.
Yeah, just give it to my boy Bucky Irving from Oregon, and you'll be good, right, David?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bucky has kind of been going through a sophomore slump. He's averaging under 4 yards a carry, but hey,
He's only 15 yards behind Saquon right now, I believe, in rushing. So
you know what? Saquon isn't doing too great either. If you look
No.
at his numbers.
Yeah, definitely not up to par with last year's numbers.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
When the entire defense is going, stop that guy.
yeah,
yeah. That is true.
yeah. Last year was a little tough, but this year that's the game plan. So this next game is a very funny game. The reason why is because both these teams I had slated to lose their division, to finish last in both their divisions. So that is none other than the Indianapolis Colts and the Los Angeles Rams. And yes, I know I sound crazy, and I sounded crazy back then when I said that Rams were going to finish last in the NFC West. The Colts, I don't sound too crazy then, but right now, maybe a little bit because they are 3-0. But this is why it's also even more funny is that these are two of the most complete teams in the NFL. Right now, the Indianapolis Colts rank second in the league in total offense at 418.7 yards a game. And behind them at the fifth position is the LA Rams at 363.7 yards a game. So offensive wise, these guys are top five in the NFL. Then if you flip it on the defensive side, the Colts in total defense ranks at seventh at 272 yards they're giving up a game, where the Rams are fifth at 268 yards a game. So they're very close there. But it's the X factors for both of these teams, and one of them being Daniel Jones. Okay, and never would I have thought I'd say that, but it's true. This isn't just the Jonathan Taylor game, although he is part of that. Daniel Jones is putting up great numbers. Daniel Jones right now has 816 passing yards, which is third in the NFL. Okay, I wouldn't have even thought Daniel Jones would be in the top 20 in 3 weeks in the NFL, and here he is at number 3. But Jonathan Taylor, it is, I mean, we're seeing the Jonathan Taylor of who he should have been the whole time in the NFL. If you watched him back at Wisconsin, you knew this guy was special and he was going to take the NFL by storm. And yes, we've seen shades of it, but we are now seeing the full potential of Jonathan Taylor. And I've always been a big fan of him, and I hope he stays healthy. But he's leading the league right now with 338 rushing yards. And add on another 100 in receiving yards there with a touchdown. So he's complete as can be. And I hope that he continues to do that this year because at the end of the day, he could be an offensive player of the year candidate easily with the numbers he's putting up. But both these teams are complete. And I kind of have to eat a little bit of crow here because Stafford has proved me wrong. I know he's not putting up giant numbers, but when you have a guy like Puka Nacua who you could throw the ball to, you feel very confident. I was one of those that doubted Puka Nacua after his first year. I wanted to see if he could continue to do it. Well, he has, and he has proved me wrong big time. The way that this guy plays ball, and he plays like he's the biggest guy out there, and he may not be, but he plays that way, and that's what I love about it. And he's just an amazing receiver, and he's fun to watch. So it's tough on this game. It is tough, but the one thing to me that I think is going to be a game changer is I think the Rams are pissed off as hell because of how last week played off. They had a lead. It looked like their game, and then it wasn't their game. Then they had a game-winning field goal. Looked like they could win it. They lost it. So I think the Rams are going to be pissed off. They're 2-1. Indy's 3-0. By the end of this week, I think they're both going to be 3-1. Give me the LA Rams winning this game 24-17. I just think that they're just going to be pissed off enough to win this game. Thaddeus.
This is also another great matchup, and I agree with you, Matt. I really think the Rams will be pissed off because they should have won that game, up by multiple scores against the Eagles. even if they gave up that lead, they should have, had two. They had two opportunities to get field goals, both blocked. Like how many times does that happen? Have two field goals blocked in the same game? So I really think, yeah, they're going to be pissed off. The Colts have been amazing, and I really like it. Like I like this Daniel Jones, Indiana Jones. It's really great, but they haven't really faced great competition. I mean, yeah, the Dolphins are not great. The Broncos, we thought were going to be great, but it looks like they might be average, maybe slightly above average. Who knows?
They could still end up doing good. I mean, 1-2 is not terrible, but
It's not the end of the world, but they just we don't know exactly how good the Broncos are. And then obviously
Right.
the Titans and their head coaching it's just a mess right now. So I really think this offense is real. It's really good. Now, Jonathan Taylor, like you alluded to, has been underrated. He's actually a really good running back, but now with the combination of Daniel Jones and finally, having a good offensive line again like he did back in 2020, it's done wonders for him. So, but I really don't think they'll be able to put as much as they have previously against this Rams defense. They did a really good job on the Eagles, for through three quarters, basically. And I really don't know how the Colts are gonna do as well. And this Colts defense is good, but not quite elite. Now Lou Anarumo is doing a fantastic job with this Colts defense, but they're going to have a hard time stopping Stafford, Adams, and Nakua, who's leading the NFL in receiving yards. So we got the leading rusher versus the leader in receiving yards, which is a fun little thing. So, but I'm also going to take the Rams in this one. Yeah, give me the Rams, 24-21.
Well, and another fun, fact is, Puka Nacua is leading the NFL in receiving yards. Well, Cam Bynum on the defensive side for Indy is leading the league in interceptions. So that's going to be a matchup to watch, whether he's, on Adams or Puka Nacua. I think that'll be a great matchup right there. Ed.
And you actually just brought up my point. Because the way India has been playing, they are scoring 29 plus points a game, which is really cashing in on all those yards that they've been accumulating. Daniel Jones still has wheels on him that Matthew Stafford doesn't. So that's actually helping Jonathan Taylor's case as far as being able to break loose and the defense not being able to just crash on the running back every time he goes to handoff or play action off of it. So on the flip side with the Rams, they've been, we talked about Puka Nacua, we talked about Adams. They're starting to get more of a two-headed monster at running back, so they can even out a little bit more and protect Matthew Stafford a little better than what they had been. Matthew Stafford is playing through back injuries that he has continuously had over the past few seasons. And if he keeps getting hit the way that he's been getting hit, they're not going to last very long. So that's going to be difficult when you've got an Indianapolis defense that is basically able to pin their ears back and get after him early on in games because the way that the Colts offense is playing and cashing in early in games, the defense can then just pin their ears back. The corners can play press and sticky coverage and cause some of those issues because Stafford will then have to throw more than he should to keep the Rams in the game. That is going to be a sticking point, and I think that favors the Colts in this matchup. So I'm going to take the Colts in this a little bit wider margin than what you guys are saying. I'm going to say 27-17.
Yeah, Ed, at this rate, by the end of this year, Matthew Stafford's going to be like that famous Mike Tyson interview. My back is broken. I broke my back. All right. So, I mean, that's essentially what it's going to be like with all those back injuries. But It could definitely be like a coin flip in this game as far as who's going to win this game. And this game, I feel like, should be talked about a lot, just like the Eagles and Bucks game. But I think we all know which game will get talked about most, and we'll talk about it here soon. But David, your thoughts on this game?
You talk about how the Rams are pissed off and the Rams have something to prove. Well, the Colts have something to prove too for the entire season, because even though they're 3-0, as Stat rightly pointed out, their competition has not been great. The toughest opponent they've played so far is the Broncos, but the Broncos are 1-2. Do I believe the Broncos are going to turn it around? Yes, I do. But for the time being, they are 1-2. So right now, the Colts have a opportunity to show everybody, hey, we're actually legit. We're not a fluke at all. And the Colts are legit. Daniel Jones has been having a comeback player of the year type of year. Obviously, you touched on Jonathan Taylor. The defense has been great as well. So I'm going to take the Colts here by a score of 30-21, and I think after the Colts beat the Rams by 9, people are going to see, oh snap, yeah, no, the Colts actually are legit.
Yeah,
And if I could, one more quick point. Should the Colts win this game, there's a good chance that they could be up 4 games on who was preseason picked to be the AFC South division winner. So that would be a huge step in really putting to bed this division right off the jump when everybody else is kind of subpar in that division.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you would have told me through 3 weeks we have the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Broncos all at 1-2, and the Houston Texans at 0-3. Like I said, this is a twilight zone. I wouldn't have believed you, because that's
Yeah.
just how crazy the start of this NFL season has been. But it's going to get even crazier, because I guarantee you, all 4 of those teams that I just mentioned all happen to be in the AFC, may find a way to get into the playoffs. So
I mean,
stay tuned.
I mean, I had very strong reservations about CJ Stroud during the season, but even so, I thought Houston would still win the division, and they could still probably win it, because if you guys recall, some time ago, Houston got off to an 0-3 start, and then I don't know if they won the division, but they got off to an 0-3 start, and they were able to overcome that to make the playoffs. I mean, we could possibly see the same thing here, but at this point, I highly, highly doubt it.
Well, and Joe Mixon will be coming back. Maybe that's why they aren't doing that good. They just need
Yeah,
that
fair.
start. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I was going to say too, because the Texans' defense has been excellent. They've held opponents, I believe, under 20 points a game. So it's really just been this offense, and this offensive line has just been terrible.
Oh yeah, which we knew it would be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unfortunate, but things can still change around. It's still early, but this last game is a game that's going to be talked about, because there is a big headline storyline for this game, and that is the Green Bay Packers facing off against the Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons will be facing off against his old team. Ed's thrilled. I know he is, and I'm excited for him. And I think the whole world, unless you're a Cowboys fan, you are pulling for the Green Bay Packers to win this game, and you are pulling for Micah Parsons' sack on Dak Prescott, not once but probably twice. So Ed, I'm going to give you the floor. The floor is all yours here. Let us know, let America know your thoughts on this game.
Well, so I went back and watched the Packers game against the Browns, and what I saw there was them playing a defense that really played a short shell coverage and did not let any of the Packers' offense really get in rhythm. They were having to inch their way down the field. At one point in that game, the Packers were 10 of 16 on third down. There's a lot of teams that don't see 16 third downs in 2 games, let alone in a single game. So that just shows how they had to inch their way down the field. Now you fast forward to this week against the Cowboys, it's a totally different uh, expectation because Matt Eberflus is going to play shell coverage because that's what he's been doing, and the Cowboys have been getting torched in doing so. The reason why it worked against the Packers is because the Packers were having to deploy 2 and 3 people to the edge to take on Myles Garrett to not let Myles Garrett get to Jordan Love. Well, this week, the most threatening person on the Cowboys defensive line is Kenny Clark, who's the forgotten man in that trade for Micah Parsons. Kenny Clark wants to show that they made a mistake by letting him go, but after 3 Pro Bowls and not making it any further than what the Packers had, it was time to make that trade. Totally get it. So I am looking forward to seeing the Packers offense just show out against the Cowboys. And it'll be on both sides of the ball because the Packers are going to be able to get on top of the Cowboys quickly on offense. If you look at that tape against the Bears, the Cowboys let Cortland Loveland just go up and down the field on them through the tight end spot. And who's been one of the best playmakers for the Packers this year? Tucker Kraft. The tight end is always open, and he's going to continue to be open, especially underneath that shell coverage that Eberflus is going to have out there. Diggs is not going to be able to do anything against them. Overshown's not going to be able to do anything for him. Kenny Clark, he's going to have to do that all by himself. And the Packers offensive line knows that. So they are going to be able to protect Jordan Love through the center of that offensive line. Last week they couldn't do it because of that deployment against Myles Garrett and the twist that the Browns were deploying. And that's where Jordan Love got sacked 4 times. So this week, the Packers, they are going to really hand it just I'm expecting a blowout through the first half of this game between the Packers and Cowboys. And I don't see the Cowboys being able to rebut that because you're going to have Micah Parsons playing with spirit, going after Dak Prescott. The Cowboys' run game has been, trying to take some of the pressure off Dak, but it's not been dynamic. The wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb getting hurt on that jet sweep last week. We've seen drop passes. It's all going to come together in what will probably be a game in which Sunday Night Football doesn't want to see, and that's a game that is over by halftime. But it is a game that everybody's going to be talking about because there's such a big storyline with this trade that happened before the season. I'm taking the Packers at 38-10 because this is a game in which all the air is going to be taken out of the Cowboys sideline, the Cowboys aura early on, and that's just going to allow that defense to continue to press on the Cowboys offense.
Yeah, I agree pretty much with everything you said there, almost to a T. I think I have 3 guarantees for this game. I've got a Micah Parsons sack, Green Bay Packers victory, and a meltdown by George Pickens by the third quarter. That's my 3rd guarantee there. But yeah, I think this game's over by halftime. I really do. I think that Green Bay is going to have such a complete game, and I think Josh Jacobs is going to be one of the reasons because of that. I think that's my X factor for this game. If you were to ask me, it's going to be Josh Jacobs. I think it's going to be one of his best games so far this year. But give me a 24-10 victory. I know it doesn't seem as much, but like I said, I think this game's over by halftime. It may be 24-0 at halftime, and the 10 points be garbage points for Dallas. But give me 24-10 Green Bay here. David?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I mean, the Cowboys got destroyed by Caleb Williams and the Bears last week. I mean, Ed, I agree with Ed. It's going to be a blowout by 20 plus, but I actually have it even bigger. I've got I've got the Packers, not the Cowboys. I've got the Packers over the Cowboys, 56-18, and the only reason, yeah, I'm going that high. The only reason the Cowboys are even going to score 18 points in the first place is because the Packers are going to take out their starters at the beginning of the fourth quarter after already scoring 56, and the Cowboys will just score garbage points against the Packers second stringers. So give me the Packers 56-18.
All right.
6 garbage field goals by Aubrey.
Yeah, pick them up in fantasy. You may be happy. Thaddeus.
Yeah, we're all going to be in agreement here. This might not even be a contest, even on paper. But even if you're thinking about it realistically, like, yeah, the Cowboys were competitive with the Eagles, but they had CeeDee Lamb. They are not going to have CeeDee Lamb for this game. We saw the Eagles, offense was has been incompetent most of the season and just barely scraping by. So it's lucky they scored. They allowed the Eagles offense to even score 24 points. They could have put up way more, in my opinion. So yeah, it's going to be a blowout no matter which way you see this from. Give me the Packers 35-10.
Shoot, what are the chances actually that George Pickens actually gets ejected by halftime? That may be a better guarantee.
You might have more penalties than drops.
Yeah, which is saying something. But yeah, I think that game right there is a clean sweep for obvious reasons for us. Before we hop off the air, Thaddeus, do you have our updated records?
Yes, I do. So last week, I believe it was Ed and I did the same picks, and Matt and David did the same picks. Ed and I went 2-1, and Matt and Ed went 1-2. So that
You
puts
mean Matt and David?
Yeah, Matt and David. Okay.
You said Matt and Ed.
oh, whoopsie. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But anyway, that gives me the lead. I'm at 7-3. Matt is in second place at 6-4. Ed in third place at 5-5, and David in last at 3-7.
So basically, my new strategy has to be whoever Thad picks to win. That's who I'm going to pick.
There we go.
I mean, I'm
So Thad, you're first every week.
Yep, yeah. That's gonna be the new rule. So that way we can pick against you. Yeah. I mean, it's still early on. Things could definitely change, and what it's going to be those games that you're just not expecting that could be the deciding factor that could change things here. So
It's football, NFL especially, any given Sunday, as they say. We saw it last week.
Exactly. So I mean, just think this week either the Ravens or the Chiefs are going to be 1-3. So let that sink in. But that's about all we have today, folks. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Please continue to do so. Please also continue to hit that like, subscribe button, comment, and chat with us below. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know who you're predicting to win, and maybe some predictions on a shocker for this year. It's still early on, but if you have a pretty juicy shocker that you would like to predict on what could happen with us this year, I'd love to hear it below. But until next time, guys, that is the final whistle. We will catch you next week.